Greetings of the day. It's my absolute pleasure today to have with me someone I have known for many, many years and someone I have deep affection and admiration for. I have with us uh, Ravindra Karnad, fondly called Ravi by everyone I know. And Ravi and I were colleagues many, many years ago and very, very special colleague. I have very fond memories of us working together in Texas Instruments. And during my years there, I have to say that Ravi made an incredible effort to not just help me integrate with the business, but also feel a sense of belonging and a friendship that I have cherished for so many years over time through so many life's milestones, including my daughter, her growth, Ravi's son, his wedding, and so many other things. Really, my honor, actually, Ravi, to watch you and witness how you have conducted your life and what a beautiful way you have cared for people around you. So, in my mind, you're a special friend and quite an admirable caregiver. And I'm very, very glad to have this conversation with you. Welcome.
Thank you, Bhavna. I'll be more than happy to share my experience in caregiving because I think it's one of the most important roles that I have played, and which may not have been planned for also, but it's there. It came my way. So,
Yes. Ravi, let's, by means of context, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what do you do these days? Uh, and then we will get to the caregiving part of it.
okay. So I've been an engineer. I identify myself first as an engineer because I love the profession.
Yes.
I worked for many years as you said, Bhavna, and 10 years ago, I left my job, and it was around that time that my father was not well, and caregiving also started more seriously 10 years back. I still do some engineering work, but it's not as intense as when I was in a job. So I work
Mm.
for environmental products, waste processing specifically. But I think I have structured my work in such a way that it allows me to spend time at home with my now with my mother and earlier with both of them too. So this is where I am right now. I'm 65 years old, and my mother is now 93. Um, and yes, I mean, I don't feel that I'm 65. I feel pretty young and energetic, and I have God given energy to do my daily duties.
For sure, for sure. Ravi, tell us a little bit about, you know, tell us a little bit about your parents, your father, your need to care for him, and what that meant for you at your workplace and some of the decisions you may have taken.
So it was my father's case and my mother's also. I mean, the incident which made me a caregiver was it was very sudden, not expected. It was not like a gradual illness or something. In my father's case, it was a fall, and he was
Mm,
perfectly healthy till then. And after the fall, a lot of things went bad. And this was about 12, 13 years ago. And I had to assume the role of a caregiver. And initially, I was a little, um, what do you say, I was unprepared for it, to say the least. I had
mm,
to figure out what it meant in terms of accepting that my father is suddenly he's degenerating, he's not able to think,
Mm,
and he was the most intelligent person I had come across. He's not
mm,
able to have basic conversation, and he cannot do his daily chores. Uh, and I was kind of forced into this role because at that time I couldn't get suitable service providers 12, 13 years ago. And of course,
mm,
it had a negative impact on my job. And soon afterwards, I left my job also. And
mm,
for a while, of course, it irritated me a bit. And then
mm,
I gradually accepted the role and said that, more philosophically looking at it, this is the only time I will get to be with my father, play this role for him. And later on, I had to do the same for my mother because my mother got a stroke, and it was again
mm,
unexpected. And but I think I was a little more prepared the second time onwards. I think I
mm,
dealt with it with a lot more patience, and I could try to structure my work with the help of some healthcare agencies so that I'm not burdened so much with the daily chores. But I'm there. I'm always there at home. And
mm,
each of them, my father and my mother, they're very different personalities. So I
mm,
had to understand those differences, and how they react to their situations was also different.
mm.
How I reacted was also different because I'd grown older and wiser after the first experience.
Yes, yes.
So this is how I
I,
came into the caregiving thing.
I yeah, I understand. So, you said that suddenly one day your dad had a fall, and because he had a fall, it meant that you needed to actively care for him more. How old was he, and how old were you at the time?
Uh, I would have been about 53, and he would have been around 88, 89 years old. Um,
Right.
yes, and I mean, just before leaving my job at that time. Uh,
Hmm.
one of the things I remember telling people is that, see, as children, we almost all have the same growth pattern, 90 or 99%.
Hmm.
But later on in life, maybe towards the end of our lives, each person is so very different. We don't know at what age the degeneration sets in, how it sets in, why the complexities of it all. The latter part of our lives is all very different, whereas the early part of our lives is 90% of the people may be the same. I mean, most of the children would go through the same thing. So it's very predictable. At the other end,
Hmm.
we have no predictability at the other end. So, like,
That's a very important, yeah, that's a very important point from somebody who's caring for. A large number of times, people would say that, caring for children and caring for older adults, older adults become like children. So it's the same. But
just a second. Sorry. Yes, please.
so I think, Ravi, you make a great point that, often people would say that looking after is like looking after children, and they become like, older adults become like children, and we have to just care for them. But it's not the same. It's different, because when we are caring for children, then children have milestones, and you have a track, and we probably have uh, accumulated wisdom over the years, so we understand growing up, and we understand children very differently, but we probably don't have enough intelligence and wisdom around geriatric caring as we have around pediatric caring.
Uh, yes, and I think it's also because in geriatric cases, I'm sure each case is very different from the other, unlike pediatric cases where there may be more of a commonality. I'm not speaking from a medical point of view, but just as a layman, I feel that
Sure.
it's
I think it's a good thing to start with that assumption that each person will age differently and will present their aging differently. And if we are prepared with that, then we can be better caregivers.
yes.
Yeah. So let's let's talk about your early experience of caring for your father, who'd just been a very intelligent, aware, and present person. And because of his fall and his illness, there were changes. So, can you tell us some of the key things that you needed to do at the time? And what was your journey like?
I think this statement which I'm going to make is true not only in the caregiving context, but in many other places as well. But over here, I would say that it's first and foremost too important to get in control of yourself, of oneself, more than
Mm,
the situation. Because if we are not in control of how, the situation will go out of hand.
mm,
So I think it was the same with caregiving. I had to
mm,
learn how to be patient, how to, convince myself that this is a new role and this is what life has given me right now, and I have to forget about
mm,
uh, maybe temporarily other plans and projects or things like that. I have to focus mainly on caregiving, and my this
mm,
time won't come again. So I think, although it is stated very simply now, it took me a long while to accept this and to change my outlook and behavior
mm,
towards my father. And initially I would get very impatient and I would be irritable,
mm.
and I had to manage those things. And once those
Why
things were
why did it
managed,
take long? Why did it take long? Were you feeling resentful? Were you not having the support that you wanted? Why does it take long to accept this?
hmm, I think it could be a bit of both. Uh, but again, in terms of support, it's not that I asked and it didn't come. It is that
Mm,
I have to realize that I need this kind of support, whether it's from my sister or my wife or some outside agency or whatever. I have to decide that these are things which I will do, and these are the things which others will do. It took some time to figure that out and what changes I should make in my daily life, whether it's my job or it's my own personal time. So
that's a great point, actually. I think first to just accept that this is the role that I have to play, but it is taking me a while. But I think just learning to understand and articulate what do I need before I can ask someone for help. I'm paraphrasing what you've just said so that we can understand along the way. But it's
yeah,
really important to one, accept that I'm in this role, and two, to start to articulate what I need.
yes, correct. And after that, you can look for what you need. But first, you have to realize what is it that you're looking for. I mean, the
Right.
situation is there in front of you. You can't change it, but you can deal with it. And
Yeah.
like, for example, a very small point is that I figured out that in this whole thing about caregiving, more than doctors, I think the role of paramedics, nurses, physiotherapists, these are much more important than just a doctor, because doctors very soon reach a point where they say we can do nothing more. So it is this secondary set of people. I mean, in the medical profession, I don't know what's the formal term, maybe paramedics.
Yes.
Physiotherapists make a marvelous change. So
Yes.
do attenders and nurses. They
Yes.
are the ones who actually deal with the day-to-day problem after the doctors have kind of said, "That's it. You take care." And doctors are very rarely available for more than 3 minutes or something. even if you go to the big
That's
hospitals. Whereas
yeah,
we have, even now, we have a nurse who comes and spends an hour with my mother once a month, and she does
right.
so much quality time. So I think we have to recognize that this is what we need, and these are more important to us than, otherwise we keep looking towards doctors and medical solutions. These are not actually medical solutions, very strictly speaking. They are more,
Mm,
like, to use your thing, caregiving solutions. They are caregiving solutions which need not
mm,
have much to do with the medical community.
yeah. I think recognizing that there is going to be a significant component of care and caregiving, and that who is the best person to give that care is not the doctor, but it is that that other set of people, other types
Yeah.
of experts, is a great point. Do tell us, how a physiotherapist, maybe some incident, some experience with the physiotherapist and their interaction. I remember you had written one piece around the physiotherapist. So can you recollect any incidents where you had this realization or you felt that they were doing a significant?
Yes.
Uh,
This is in relation to my father. He was in hospital in the ICU and for about 3 weeks. And when he came home, the doctors had said, like, that's it. I mean, you can take him home. They didn't have
mm,
further advice on what to do. And
mm,
he was completely stiff from his toe till his neck. I think he could only turn his head. He couldn't move any other part of his body. And that was when
mm,
the physiotherapist came in. And
mm,
uh, he, within 2 3 days, he not only got my father's limbs moving, he could make him stand up without support against a
mm,
wall, and it was so unbelievable for all of us that I still have a video clip of that, which I remember very well, because we couldn't believe that my father, who could not even move his toe, managed to move his limbs slowly, and he could get up and he could stand and he could go to the wall and stand with his back erect to the wall. So that was a physiotherapy miracle for me. And I still remember the physiotherapist's name. His name was Anand. He worked in Manipal Hospital, and I think he did a marvelous job. Uh,
mm,
and it was the same later on with my mother when she was paralyzed. We got a physiotherapist who could come and who could get my mother's leg moving, um, and she could stand, she could walk with help, whereas she was paralyzed. Her condition hasn't improved much, but at least it has improved to this level where she was frozen in bed and she is now able to sit up for a few hours and she's able to stand. So these are things which, for some reason the doctors may not advise specifically, but the physiotherapists know that this is their job and they will do it. They will come home and do it for you, and they'll spend good 1 hour per session to
mm.
get the patient into this thing. So I
And it
really
is so
value that.
important.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And it is so important from the patients, I mean, for the want of a better word, patient, and in the case of aging, it's not an illness. The person is not really a patient, but is just, let's say the care receiver.
yeah,
Is it's so important for them to have a sense of dignity and a sense of independence, and not be very dependent or helpless, and be able to manage at least a few things on their own. And for that, investing in a physiotherapy session with an expert. Many times I know, or I encounter, sometimes people say, it's basic exercise, maybe I will do it myself. Or, the patient can do it themselves. But it's an interesting combination of expertise and motivation,
yes.
which we should lean in on the physiotherapist. Please tell us more about maybe an incident or an interaction that physiotherapist Anand may have had with your father.
Mm. Yes, so there was some, resistance from my father's side because he was gradually mentally also deteriorating. And
Mm.
when he was in his earlier, healthier years, if somebody told him you have to do this exercise, he would do it willingly.
Right.
So now he
Mm.
was losing that thing and he was resisting the
Mm.
physiotherapy.
Mm.
And he would sort of say that, I don't want to go through this session. I'm too
Mm.
old for it, or this is not possible. But the physiotherapist had his way of gradually coaxing my father, convincing him that you can do it, do this.
Mm.
And afterwards, maybe my father forgot because he used to forget very soon. But
Mm.
for 4 years, he lived for 4 years after that incident, and for the rest
Mm.
of the 4 years, he was really good. And the physiotherapist didn't need to come because he had made the change once and for all. And
Mm.
he told me one small thing. He said that as long as a man can walk, keep walking. He says that itself is enough. So he meant that now I have brought him to this stage. Now you please make him walk every day. And we used to do that. We used to,
Mm.
get him to walk a little bit and all. And I think till the end of his life, 4 years later, he continued to have that good effect of that physiotherapy, even though he came only for 2 weeks or something like that, 2, 3 weeks.
Oh,
He had this,
interesting.
and he had this permanent change for my father.
Well, that's so interesting. It's not like you have to do this throughout
Hmm.
and every day, but it is important to do this initially to just get on track, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes, yes.
And then that sounds like an investment worth making. I also know that being an engineer and being an innovative one at that, you designed a set of things for both your parents. And how did you look at tools or aids or things that you wanted to design or provide for them? And probably you didn't get them in the market, but you thought I can design them. And tell us a little bit about that.
So this was more for my mother, not so much. My father didn't need anything specific after that treatment
Okay.
from the physiotherapist. So in my mother's case, during her paralysis, I saw that in the hospital, even to make her sit down, they would call. There were at least three ward boys, 3 or 4 people
Mm.
who would lift the bed sheet with her to prop her up, and that would scare her like anything. And this was
Mm.
in a very good hospital where this kind of a crude way of lifting a person, making
Yeah.
them sit down with a bed, pull the bed sheet up and all. So I
Mm.
started thinking that there should be a better way of doing it. And
Mm.
that's when I devised a small split wheelchair. We could
Mm.
assemble the wheelchair on the bed plate by plate and make her sit down and then lift her up and put it on the bottom part of the wheelchair, etc. So,
Mm.
according to me, that was a big, what do you say, it was a big moment of joy for my mother because with that wheelchair, we could wheel her out of the house. She was imprisoned in the
Mm.
house, so we could take her out. And along with this wheelchair, I had also made some rails and ramp, etc., to take her out of the house. So both these together made me feel that there's a big need. And I later on showed this to some orthopedic friend who had come visiting, and she told me that yeah, this kind of a thing is not readily available in the market.
Mm.
Probably
Mm.
the business is not good for making such products, but we really need specialized products like this, which
Mm.
will help. And it makes so much of a difference. Like even now, after my mother's been paralyzed now for 6 years, but every day in the evening, I take her to the park, and it's because we have a wheelchair. Now the wheelchair is a ready-made wheelchair because she's fit enough to get into a
Mm.
ready-made wheelchair. Earlier, she was
Mm.
not like that. That
Mm.
stage which I talked, she crossed that stage again due to physiotherapy. She was good
Mm.
enough to sit on her own. We could stand up, all those things. So now a normal wheelchair would do the job. It's only I
Mm.
need some rails to get that out. So
Mm.
this little bit of work from anywhere. I mean, it could be either me or some engineering company. Uh, I'll just deviate for a while. Just 2 days back, I went visiting a company here in Mahadevpura, Bangalore,
Mm-hmm.
where it's called True Assistive something technology. They convert your
Mm,
car to have that swivel seat in the front, which comes out and turns, so that
nice.
elderly patients cannot. So I feel this is the need of the hour. We need companies like that who provide medical support for anyone who needs it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think there are so many products and so many devices that can one be designed, but there are so many that already exist in the market as well, but we probably don't know about them enough. I would think that, when you have a first instance of caring for someone, you have no experience that such a thing is required. Um, I have a very special memory with you, which is that when our daughter was came home, we weren't ready for her, and we didn't plan for a baby cot, and you were generous enough to give us your family baby cot that we loaned, and Vanya used it for such a long time, my daughter. And these tools and devices for childcare and probably for elder care must be available that we can
Yes.
share and probably make things easier. Um, I, I would definitely think that it's useful to uh, know about the devices, but it is also equally important to probably ask around if other people who have cared for older adults, they have some experience. Because like you're saying that, the second time round you were a little more experienced. uh, I would think experienced caregivers are a great source of knowledge.
Yes,
uh,
that is true.
so Ravi, uh, when you look at both your experiences, first with your father, then with your mother, what changes do you think came over you and some other people? What are some of the key learnings or lessons you would like to share with those of us who may perhaps be getting into caregiving for the first time?
See, some of these are, I would say that these are my personal philosophy and belief in life. So it may
Right.
differ. People may not subscribe to the same thing, but uh, I would say that first thing is we, as children of parents who need caregiving, I think we should not reject that idea. We should be
Mm,
open to ourselves doing it, not so much because of I will say this way that it's not about paying back or something like that, but I feel that healing happens best when there is an emotional connect. Uh,
mm,
if you just leave the caregiving to a mechanical, somebody who does it mechanically, versus
mm,
a family member, I think
mm.
at least some critical part of that should be done by a family member. It cannot be 100% outsourced, and nor can it be 100% family member because it's very tiring. So I think
Right.
recently I had written about it that I think this is the first decision to make, is that it's not going to be 0 here and 100% there, but the
Mm,
family member is involved either as a child or as a brother, sister, or whatever, and we have to
right.
say that this is our role in the caregiving. I think we should
Yeah.
not wash that away depending on so
Mm,
many situations. I mean, I mentioned that I was at the tail end of my job or something, but it could have happened much earlier. So I
mm,
can't generalize. But I feel there should be a well defined role which I will play as a family member. And there are other
mm,
things which, say, physiotherapists or nurses or attenders or whatever, no, will play that role. So it's a mix of these two. Now, coming back to how I looked at it, this was one of my perspectives that I need to say that this is my job and I feel good about it. And I also made sure that throughout this period, I do spend some time for myself, which is to make me more resilient or adaptable to the situation. So I continued with my exercises or my meditation and things like that, or even just listening to music. And
Mm,
I started understanding my parents better, maybe in a different frame of mind.
mm,
Like right now, I know what my mother really likes, what she doesn't like.
mm,
So
mm,
uh, I know that, for example, she likes travel videos. So every evening I have a 1 hour time slot with her where we watch travel videos together.
mm,
Thanks to YouTube, we watch these things. So I think
mm,
we also understand our own parents better, and
mm.
those are the changes. And of course, it has made me. I think it's made me more peaceful, and I feel more satisfied with what I'm doing.
Anybody who has known you, and I'm going to call upon my many our common Texas Instruments friends, will recognize that you are one of the most Zen people. It's not just your email ID that has Zen in it. My association with you is you're quite a grounded, centered person. In fact, I remember you giving me an introduction to meditation. I still have your notes. Do you know that?
Okay.
After all
Mhm,
those years.
mhm.
But if someone like you would say that the caregiving experience has made you even more patient or calm or resilient, and that certainly says something. And thank you for sharing that. Hi, Ravi.
Hi, Bhavna.
It is typical that we must prioritize our caregiving responsibilities, and I'm so delighted that you let us know that this was the right time for you to attend to your caregiving duties. And we have been able to pick up this conversation now. So, picking up from the previous conversation, I am keen for you to reflect back on your journey and help current or new caregivers learn from your experience or your wisdom. So, one of the things that I for sure would want to know from your point of view is what are some of the things, two, three, five, how many ever, things that you think, three is a good number, uh, that you would tell someone who is new to caregiving?
Thanks, Bhavna. By coincidence, it happened that few days back, one of my relatives had to start her journey on caregiving for her
Hmm.
mother.
Hmm.
So I started talking to her, or rather messaging her. And in that course,
Hmm.
I thought of a few things. It may be around
Hmm.
three, and I may digress or elaborate a little more on some of them. So, the first thing which I may have mentioned earlier also is that you don't need to take 100% responsibility yourself as an individual. And at the same time, I don't think it's correct to take zero responsibility also.
Hmm.
So, I feel it is good to decide what part of it you want to do and what part of it can be done by others. You can adjust it based on the as time progresses, and you may have some things coming up in life. But I feel this has to be done. That you can't walk away, and nor can you immerse yourself completely that you don't have time for anything else.
Right. Right.
This is the first thing I would say. So,
Hmm.
and it is a difficult journey. So you have to get. help. Now, where do you get the help from? In my opinion, the medical community is has a limit on how much they will go and what they have been taught. Maybe there are some few specialized doctors, but this
Yes.
really needs much more than what the medical community normally gives you, a 5 minute slot or something. This is not at all adequate. So we
Mm,
need to look for other people, maybe like caregiver sati, or in general, nurses, physiotherapists, and people who have been paramedics, so to say,
mm,
in this field, and looking after, um, helping us to look after our seniors, or maybe
mm,
uh, those who need medical attention. I mean, this paramedical thing. So I think this is the second thing, that go to them, and they are the ones who have the time to spend with you much more than doctors in hospitals.
mm,
Uh, and this is the second point. The third point I would say is that in all this, which I think you have said it often in your posts also, and I believe it is, you have to manage yourself well. So,
mm.
taking care of yourself is very important. You
Right.
may have different means of doing it. Like if somebody was an artist, maybe they can paint, or if you're involved in music, you can set aside some time for music, or yoga, or meditation, or whatever else. So I think, whether in this situation or otherwise outside or in your career also, I came to the understanding that what is most important is to manage yourself first, and then
Mm.
you'll be better equipped to manage your life situations.
For sure. For sure.
So I would think
Interestingly,
these are.
I had two conversations yesterday uh, for uh, two women dealing with dementia, one for her father and one for her mother. And both wanted help for the patient. And I spent a lot of time trying to tell them that you need to take care of yourself. And by extension, the patient will be taken care of. And interestingly, one of them said, "You're flipping it in my head because my instinct is, can I get the best help to help my mom? Then my father, who's the primary caregiver, and then, if at all, me." Whereas I was trying to tell her that the right thing for you to do would be to take care of yourself, and by extension, your father, and then your mother.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's some kind of a reversal because we think about it differently. And what you and I are recommending is some kind of flipping it.
So this reminds me of the announcement that you hear in the planes, in the aircraft. If you
Yes,
have a child, then please wear your own mask and then put on the mask for the children.
correct,
So
correct. Yes,
it's something like
for
that.
sure.
Mm.
Yes. So, but while a large number of people know it, it's just a very difficult practice to implement. Uh, what would you recommend to caregivers in terms of building the physical and emotional infrastructure?
See, I feel that right now we'll talk about, say, the person who needs the care. So
Right.
uh, let us for a moment center it around that. So for the
Okay.
person who needs the care, I think we have to make the physical infrastructure obviously comfortable, but also let
Mm,
them engage in some tasks, whatever it is,
mm,
which uplifts their moods. Because I think
mm.
the mind plays a very important role in healing for that person also. So
Yes.
we cannot stop focusing on that. So we have to be mindful about what it is that the person likes, and this is where the
Mm.
family members role is very important. Like the
Great
example you
point.
gave about the, somebody looking after mother and father. So obviously in that case we know what our parents like, what is it
Mm.
that makes them feel good. Like say in my mother's case, she loves going to the park. So one
Mm.
hour in the park is, it's a real big mood lifter for her.
Mm.
So I have to make all provisions to make sure that she can go to the park as often as possible. She likes music, or she likes to watch travel videos, etc. So I think the first is to look at the mental well-being of that person.
Mm.
Then of course, your paramedics will tell you what kind of exercise or diet or uh, things like that you need to do. So one of the other things which I feel is not often recommended but is very important is, when I say um, physical surroundings, I think being in the sun is very important,
Mm.
because sunlight has the ability again to improve your mood. And in India, we are most of the year we have enough of sunlight, so we should try to
Mm.
find
Yeah.
some space where we can go outdoors and be in the sun with that person. And
Yes.
so I think these are the things which we, and they are, it may sound very simple, but they can expand into big tasks. Like how do you take them out? Do you have a
Yeah.
wheelchair? Do you have a
Yeah.
ramp? Is there a way to, does the park have a ramp?
Yeah.
Like in my case, I got a ramp made. I mean, my neighbors and the committee around, they made a ramp for the park, so that
Right.
it's very easy for
Mm.
people. So although these are simple things, actually implementing them may take a while of
For
talking
sure.
to
For
others.
sure. For
So
sure. And I think it's a great example that one, knowing what the person you're caring for likes. Two, recognizing that you may or may not be able to do it yourself. And so, what is it that you're going to set up? So, for example, let's say you're working and you won't be able to go to the park in daylight hours.
yeah,
Then, what is the system so that the person can be taken
yeah,
and you feel assured that you're doing the right things?
yes. So
Yes.
there are times when you can do, and there are times when somebody else has to do it for you. So this all depends on the
Yeah.
situation. So I think that is where we have to be flexible and also take help from attenders or nurses or people like that who can pitch in when you are not free.
Right. Right. Um, You know, I know that uh, you're married to Sujita, who is a working professional, and you're partners in so many things. Um, in most homes, sometimes caregiving becomes predominantly the woman's job when it comes to taking care. I'm curious to know how did what part of it would you be okay to share, but to help understand what has been that equation, because increasingly women who are working will need to balance and manage this with their careers.
Yes, so I think Sujita, she took on the part which, like, let's say we have a cook also at home, but
Right,
planning the menu, or how much we should make for my mother, portions, all those things.
right,
I think she had a better feel for it uh,
right.
than I do. So,
Hmm.
meal, although she may or may not be involved in the actual meal preparation, sometimes she is, sometimes the cook is, but she would
Right,
always be attentive about portions, timeliness. it's like on the dot. My mother will always have her breakfast at this time and lunch at, for example,
Mm,
lunch is always at 1:10. It's not even 1:15. It's at 1:10. Come what may, my mother will have her lunch, and at 7:50
mm,
or 7:55, my mother will have her breakfast, and so on. So these are things which Sujita would do. So these
mm,
are maybe some daily things, but apart from that, whenever there is a situation where she feels that I'm a little nervous, or
mm,
I've got very anxious about something that has happened, she
mm,
would be very cool, and she would be very clinical about it and say, now
mm,
let's do these three things. Don't worry,
mm,
we'll manage
mm,
uh, this.
mm,
So I think there is a difference, of course,
mm.
in how different people, whether it's your spouse or like even my son participates, Pranav. So
Right.
there are times when, let's say, we have my sister and my son both.
Mm,
There are times when we have taken a holiday in spite of
mm,
all this. So when we
mm,
when we go away, even though the caregiver, I mean the attender and everybody is at home, as part of that family member role, my sister would come in, and my son also would come in and stay and make sure. And it would
mm.
we would find it very reassuring, wherever we are. So we've
Of
been
course.
to Uttarakhand and Kerala, or wherever, no. So
Nice.
we can do all those things because different family members also pitch in a little more at those times. And my mother understands that we are going out, and she's fine with it.
Yes. No, I think that's a very important point because, as uh, in general, all of us need a break. And for sure, caregiving can be mentally and emotionally exhausting as well. And taking a break can be important. I know so many people who find it so hard to take a break, but enlisting the support of some of the extended family or friends, or, can be a very valuable way because, you're assured you
Yeah.
have somebody who's reliable, and the person you're caring for is also some familiarity, and there is some kind of a system, and you come back replenished. I think it is great. We call it the care team, setting up a care team. You have
Mm.
a large extended team,
Mm.
and different people. Like you said, your first point was that think about what is it that you will do, or what is it that you will lean in on some of the other people. I think provisioning for the times when you will not be there uh, would also be in that.
Yes.
Um, and I do think that increasingly this is becoming gender agnostic. So both men and women can do a set of things. And,
Yes.
you know, depending on what your strengths and uh, things are.
Yes.
Um, how do you look at caring for yourself as the years progress? So, one of the things that we are finding is that most of us will live much longer than the previous generation. And we may or may not have the support systems that we have seen or we have used to. And we may need to be caregivers to ourselves. So, my final question to you would be, how are you a caregiver to yourself?
Yes, I think that's very important, and maybe I missed mentioning it, but I think part of this thing about managing yourself is
Yeah.
also about noticing that you are growing old, and
Mm,
because when we are looking after your parents, one of the first what do you say, something that surprises or shocks you is that, my father was such a strong individual. He used to manage everything, and now he's like, he just needs help all around. So
mm,
that transition itself was uh, a bit of a shock
Yeah.
in some sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
likewise, we have to prepare ourselves for our aging. And
Mm,
what I would say is, personally, I have taken kind of challenge for myself that at least over the last 10 years, I don't have health insurance. And the reason
mm,
I've consciously done this is that it puts a responsibility on me that I will be healthy without the need for doctors and medicines. So, this is something that I have made up my mind for. And I try
mm,
to get others also, but I think it's a very challenging thing, and uh,
mm,
I'm going through this. And the reason is that if I set this kind of a very strict condition for myself, then even if I do need it, uh, it means that I've tried my best to be without the requirement of either medicines or doctors as well.
mm,
So I feel this is the best that we can do
mm.
to make sure that we are not an unnecessary risk or a burden to the next generation, or whoever will be there for us. So we have to do our best of looking after ourselves, even if it
Yes.
is for the sake of others, um, in some way.
Yes, and I think taking care of ourselves is also it's physically, mentally,
Yes.
socially,
Yeah.
keeping ourselves engaged,
Yes.
and taking care of ourselves in a way. And of course, the choice of health insurance or not is a very personal choice.
Yes.
Some people would be assured that they have a health insurance to back, and some could be motivated that, uh, you know, uh, it's not something that I want to
Yeah.
invest in. And we will not comment on that, but I think it's an important thing to be mindful that we are certainly living very, very long, and that we need to be able to provide for our own care.
Yes.
So I'm going to thank you for your time and for sharing your insights,
Thank you, Bhavna.
and being the gentle warrior that you are. Any closing remarks that you have to say, and anything that you would wish for Caregiver Sathi to do in the coming years? I would love to hear that.
Maybe I think the most difficult part for caregivers is the start, when they are unprepared for caregiving.
Mm,
So
mm,
maybe you already have set it up, but if there is some videos or some write-ups about this, then I have sent your website to my relative. But if there is some specific video or a YouTube, something which is like a
mm,
101 for caregiving, I think that would
mm.
be very good. Maybe you already have it and I've missed it. So
Um, no, it's a great input. I think maybe we should have one video which is like, let's get started on caregiving, something like that. But for sure, I would like to say that anybody who is a caregiver and is invited to register on the website and access a large number of self-help tools, the support group, as well as articles and videos that we produce very regularly for your understanding and preparing your in your caregiving journey. um, and of course, if you want personalized services, that is that's also available. And if you want to navigate it yourself at your own pace, then most of the resources are available for you to uh, access and use, and maybe even contribute. So like you have contributed via a blog and an article, we invite caregivers to share their stories in not just this video format, but also in writing for the blog and sharing your experience.
sure, I'll go through it in more detail again, and I will
Yes,
inform others.
yes, yes. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Thank
It is
you,
always
Bhavna.
a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Bhavna. Bye bye.
Bye.